Now, apologies, I've had a lot of technical issues this morning. I'm just gonna give it a minute until I can see that you guys are indeed in the chat. I know it's gonna take a little while because it's a new link. Hopefully you guys will notice it. I'm just gonna stay here and wait. If any of you were watching the replay in the next few weeks or days, feel free to skip the next 10 minutes. It's gonna take a while until people discover the link because nothing was working this morning. I couldn't log in into my normal streaming platform, which is Prism. Hi Linda, you've made it, perfect. Linda, please tell everyone. Hi Pisas. Hi Catherine. Glad to see you guys, you've made it. We'll give it a good 10 minutes before to start so everyone can connect. Hi Natalie, welcome. It's been very stressful for many reasons. First, the timing is wrong. It is YouTube and my phone are stuck to Ecuador time zone when it's not. The Galapagos is on a different time zone. Hi Ronnie. Hi Diane, welcome everyone. And Sarah is here, welcome. So yeah, everything was going wrong. Prism Live doesn't work. I think there must be some IP login restriction or something. I've been trying to sort it out for an hour and a half. Now I've used a lot of my internet. I'm gonna have to buy more data, and I didn't manage to sort it out. Then I tried to download another app, Streamlab, where I did manage to connect, but I couldn't fully connect into my YouTube. I couldn't actually find my scheduled stream, so I had to create a new one. And then when I started streaming on YouTube, they refused to go landscape for some reason. So it took a while. Anyway, welcome Cheryl. Nice to see you all here. I'm just gonna wait a little bit until everyone finds the new link. If any of you would be kind enough to post it on Facebook, on the different groups, that'll be amazing, because some people might still be waiting in the old chat. And if any of you was completely new to me, if you don't know what you've clicked on, this is gonna be a live stream on Santa Cruz in Galapagos. We'll just wait about 10 minutes before. Oh, thank you, Linda. That's very nice of you. Thank you. So we'll just give it a few minutes so everyone can find the new link. Apologies about the quality. It's not gonna be as good as usual because I'm now streaming through YouTube instead of my usual streaming platform. And also I won't be able to show you any photographs or images I had planned to show you, but hey ho, at least we've made it. We are live. And everyone that clicked on the notification on the other tour won't get any notifications, so hopefully they'll find us or they'll be able to watch the replay in the next few days or whenever. Good morning, Marilyn. So just so you know, I'm gonna try to sort it out with Prism in the next few days, but for my next tour, it could be exactly the same. There is a chance that I might not be able to connect into Prism at all. I don't know why, but it must be some regional restrictions or something, because Prism on Streamlab have exactly the same issue. Am I jet lagged? Yeah, I still am, because I went to bed very early last night and I did wake up very early. Well, although I would have woken up early anyway, because my friend went diving, so she had to wake up at 5 anyway. Hi Laurie, and welcome everyone. So we'll just wait a few minutes for everyone to connect. I would say another 5 minutes. So if any of you were watching the replay in the next few months, hello. I'm just gonna make a move from here. Let's go a bit further down. It's gonna be a bit quieter down that way. So yeah, if any of you are watching the replay, feel free to skip another 5 minutes if you want to go straight into the live walking tour. Yes, if you turn on the notification on everything from me, you should be notified. But some people only turn on the notification on one particular tour. And then when I create a new link, because the thing is, there's a different link or a different setting when it's a streaming platform, like Prism or whatever, and when it's YouTube itself. So on YouTube itself, I cannot start a live that has been scheduled for a streaming software. It's all very complicated. You don't need to know all that. All you need to know is that if the tour that is scheduled doesn't start on time, you can check my channel for any other improvised pop-up. Is Natasha here? I don't know why. I don't know what happened. I cannot see Natasha ever. Natasha, if you're here, I did try to sort it out with Lynn in Australia, but she didn't really have an answer for me. And also, guys, today, because I'm streaming to you through YouTube itself, the chat disappears very quickly. So make sure you keep it active, so I know that you're still here, that the signal has not dropped on us. And also, if I've missed any of your questions, don't be shy, ask again. I might or I might not know. I've just arrived yesterday, so I don't know everything about the location quite yet. We'll give it another 4 minutes until everyone finds the new link. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Linda. And hopefully we'll get a few more finding the link through YouTube, Facebook. No, you never leave, but sometimes the signal could leave. So you could be gone and I could be talking to no one for a while. And welcome everyone that just joined. We'll wait another few minutes before to start. Hopefully it won't be blurry. Sometimes with YouTube, when the signal is not great, it goes a bit blurry. We'll give it another 3 minutes. So it is 10 a.m. in the morning in Galapagos, although my phone on YouTube seemed to believe it's 11, or at least they believe the tour is going to be at 11. It's so very confusing. Luckily, we double-checked the time last night for everything, because it happened to me, I think in Tenerife as well, that your phone would automatically go on the timing of the mainland unless you are on Wi-Fi. So I had to manually change the timing of my phone. I wanted to schedule it for 10, so I'm good, it is 10. But my YouTube would tell me the tour is at 11, yet they would say, so 3.5 hours ago, YouTube was telling me your tour is in 2 hours, but at 11. So the math wasn't quite right. Anyway, we've made it on time, and at least I did manage to go live eventually. After an hour and a half of trying to find out what was wrong with the tech. But I'm just glad we've made it, because you spend so much time preparing those tours and stuff. It's so very frustrating when you don't manage to go live, or if the signal, the gods of the internet are not with you. So at least we are indeed live. Right, let's see what time it is. It is 5 past, so hopefully everyone has joined by now. Is it 7 hours difference? With the UK, well, I believe it is 4 p.m. in the UK, so no, 6 hours. Because it's 10 o'clock here. 6 hours with London, yeah. Right, you know what? It's been nearly 10 minutes, so I think most of you would have found the stream by now. Let's get started. So I'm gonna flip this camera around and let's go for a little walk. So we are on Santa Cruz. It's the main island. I mean the main city life island in Galapagos. Probably not the most beautiful one, but that's where you've got the airport. Well, technically the airport is not even here. The airport is on Seymour Island, which is right next to this, but you've got to take a bus, a little ferry, and another bus to get back down here. And you've got a lot of excursions and stuff starting from here, but the beaches are a bit further away. I've not even had a swim yet, would you believe? Let me go down this way. Lovely, so let's go down towards the port and the ferry terminal and everything. But before we go much further, see the name of the hostel up there? That is Sir Francis Drake. Now, if you are a regular of my tours in London, I'm gonna wait because it's a bit noisy. If you are a regular of my tours in London, you probably know exactly who that is. Francis Drake was one of the favorites of Queen Elizabeth I of England, of course, because they had an Elizabeth in Spain as well. He was an explorer. He's the second one that went across the globe after Magellan. What happened is Queen Elizabeth the first, commissioned him to go and steal a lot of gold from the Spanish. You know, Britain is known to be a great colonial power, but actually in the colonization game, Britain was a bit late. At the time of Queen Elizabeth the First, they had, they did try to take Virginia and called it Virginia after the Virgin Queen and stuff, but really, compared to the Spanish, the Portuguese, or even the French to an extent, they were a bit late. And Queen Elizabeth why do I keep saying the second? The first, she sent her favorite explorers to go instead of claiming land, they only went to steal the gold from the Spanish. Francis Drake was very, very successful at doing so. So much so that he couldn't go back the same way he came from. So, you know, he went across all Latin America and he stole so much gold from the Spanish, he couldn't go back up because then he would have run into Spanish ships. So he kept going, and he went all the way across, all the way up to Point Reyes in California, actually. And then he ended up coming down here to get some fresh water and fix his boats and stuff. His boat, you might remember his boat because we've got an exact replica in London. He had 5 when he left London, but the only one that came back is the Golden Hind. Although it was renamed the Golden Hind after one of his mates. He left with 5, and I think he came back 5 years later with only 1 boat. So some of his sailors might have stayed in, they might have become actual pirates, you know. That's actually because Drake came here that the Galapagos started to have a reputation of being a pirate island, or islands, because there are quite a few, but some of the pirates used to hide in here, in caves and stuff, and potentially bury some treasures. And let me show you a lot of you'll see a lot of, I've only been here for less than 24 hours, but I've already seen a lot of those animals. The only one I haven't seen yet is the blue fit boobies. But everything else, I've already seen some sharks, some turtles, some sea lions, some iguanas, of course, they're everywhere. We'll see some iguanas today, and I'm hoping we still have a few seals on a bench somewhere. Anyway, let's go down towards the port. So you probably have a picture of Galapagos in general as paradisiac island with beaches and stuff. This is the main city. So we're not going to the beach today. Well, I am, you're not. I'll go after the tour. But so this is probably a bit more like a city life compared to the picture of Galapagos you might have. But don't worry, my next live in Isabella should be much more wild. Thank you. You might already see straight in the middle there the statue of an iguana. Let me show you. The temperature, Cindy, oh, it's quite warm. It's probably about between 25 and 30 Celsius. Oh, there's a little bird on top of the statue of the iguana. Those iguanas, I don't want to tell you too much today about Darwin and the theory of evolution and all that, because if I tell you that today, I'll have nothing to tell you when I do a tour in San Cristobal and Isabella. But the Galapagos have a very large amount of endemic creatures, and some of them you can clearly see where they came from. Those iguanas, they came, of course, from Latin America. They might have been from the continent, you know, they might have ended up here, maybe floating on a piece of wood, you know, but they had to adapt to their environment. At the time here, because it's a volcanic island, you had no food for them. You had no vegetation, really. It was only black lava rock. So those iguanas, they started to eat different type of weed, seaweed. So they learned how to swim. So they can actually swim underwater for more than an hour. And because they were eating seaweed as opposed to normal weed, it was also way too much salt for their diet. So they've developed a way to eject the salt. So every so often, I've not seen it yet, that's why I shouldn't get too close with my camera. Every so often they kind of spit out salty water. But anyway, enough for the iguanas, because we'll talk about Darwin and the theory of evolution and all that on different islands. For now, let me see if the church is open, if I can show you a little bit of a church. So, of course, people down here are quite strong Catholics. It is to be expected from anywhere in the Spanish Empire, really. Let me take my hat off. I'm going to be quiet inside of the church. Oh, thank you, Diane. That's very much appreciated. And let's go out. Hi Mitzi, and welcome everyone that just joined. I'm glad you found me. Apologies for the new link. I've had lots of tech issues. All right, let's come out of here. Now let's go and see a little mural of Darwin. But again, you know what? I think it's actually quite ironic that there's so much on this island about Darwin. There's the Darwin Center, you've got Darwin Street, you've got murals of Charles Darwin. When technically Darwin did not come to Santa Cruz. He did spend a bit of time in the Galapagos, but he went to Floriana, Charles Island at the time. He went to San Cristobal, he went to Isabella, but he did not come down to Santa Cruz. Yet you've got statues of him and everything down here. And I'll show you the mural. Now, the story I wanted to tell you about today, it is the Galapagos affair, the Galapagos mystery. Little disclaimer, it did not happen here on Santa Cruz. It happened on Floriana, a different island. But I'm not going to Floriana. I might be maybe on an excursion. The excursions are ridiculously expensive down here. The food, it's fine, it's absolutely fine, it's very affordable. The hotels, same, very affordable. To give you an idea, we have a full apartment for $20 a night, with 4 beds, a large kitchen, large bathroom, so that's very affordable. It's not here in the city center. We have to walk a bit to go back to the hotel, but that's affordable. But the excursions, to give you an idea, it's even triple the price or double the price of the excursions in the Maldives. And the Maldives are meant to be expensive, so you can imagine. Anyway, I might go to Floriana on an excursion, but I wouldn't rely on the signal down there anyway. So I'll tell you the story from here. But again, little disclaimer, it did not happen on this island, but on a different one, on Floriana. Now, if we go back to the 1920s, it's hola. We had in well, you know, in 1929 there was the Great Depression, and of course in Germany you had the rise of fascism. So there were some German people that decided to escape, you know, go for an adventure, and actually quite a few of them came down here to Santa Cruz. There was a bit of a settlement here with quite a few Germans and Norwegians that had decided to start, oh yes, I can see my seal friends, yes, let's go and say hello. That had started a little colony here to an extent, or a little settlement at least. But there's a German couple, that did not want to come here, too busy. They wanted a little paradise of their own, so they decided to move down to Floriana. Let's say hello to my friends and then I'll tell you the rest of the story. We are meant to give them about 2 meters. Although they don't care. I'll show you in the video, there's one of them that was coming straight to me yesterday, was charging me straight to me. So they don't care about the distance. We do, we're meant to give them a bit of space. But you see, the animals over here, you'd have to remember that the Galapagos were empty for so many years. They had no humans here, and they were so isolated from the other sea lions elsewhere. They haven't even learned how to be scared of humans, because humans here have never done much to them. So they're not afraid of me at all. You coming? You know, in the UK, we've got a lot of seals, especially next to Great Yarmouth. I have been swimming with them in Great Yarmouth, but when they are on the beach, you're meant to give them a lot of space, because otherwise they get stressed. They kind of rush towards the ocean, and you can see they're not the most mobile animals, so it's stressing them big time. Here, they have no stress whatsoever. They are not scared of us. They're actually sometimes coming towards us. They're very chilled. Am I afraid of them? No. And actually, when you swim with them, like I did in Great Yarmouth, they're very playful. They're like little dogs. They're so much more comfortable in the water than they are on here, that in the water they come and play with you. You shouldn't. It could actually be dangerous to swim with them, but I did. And you don't smell too bad. His friends yesterday didn't smell very fresh, but it doesn't smell too bad. Some of them do, when they've not swum for a few hours. Oh, look, they have been, I've not noticed that before, but look, they are tagged, so they know which is which. They probably have some vets. Well, that makes sense. Actually, the lady at the hotel, she's helping her friend, but she's a vet on hello, you scared me. He was talking to me on the other side. So yeah, they probably tag them and check that they're okay, and maybe record their date of birth or everything. Right, boys, I'm gonna leave you to it, because I've got a story to tell those people online. But I'll see you later, tomorrow morning maybe. Bye. Right, let's go and see if we can see some little sharks. Although I don't think we will, because the tide seems to be a bit down. Last night when we arrived, there were a lot of baby sharks in here. It's probably the shark nursery. Oh, thank you, Cheryl. Very much appreciated. So yes, there was a German couple. Well, couple. They were not married. Well, they were, but not to one another. They had both literally abandoned their spouses to get together. It is Dr. Friedrich, but I'm gonna call him the British way, Friedrich Ritter, and his mistress / patient, Dora. Well, I think it's in German, it's called Dwere, but I'm gonna call her Dora, so you don't get confused. Because when I researched the story, I listened to podcasts and stuff, and I was so confused about the characters because, you know, they have German names, and sometimes they would call them by their first names, sometimes their last names. I actually had a little ChatGPT image created to show you who is who, but I cannot show you any image because Prism crashed. Anyway, hopefully I won't confuse you with the different characters. I'll try to call them by their first names, and if you do get confused, let me know. I'll explain. So, Dr. Ritter, Frederick, and Dora, they abandoned their partners. Dora suffered from multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis. I think that's how you say it. Oh, thank you, Holly. Let's see if there are any crabs. They have those big red crabs. There were a lot of them last night, but I think it's a bit hot now. No, I don't see any. They have some very, very red crabs. Anyway, so Frederick and Dora decided to abandon everything in Germany to move on to this completely isolated volcanic island of Floriana, here in the Galapagos. Frederick, he was a dentist, would you believe, and he did not want to suffer from any problems, dental issues or infections on the island, so he decided to pull off all his teeth before to move here. Apparently he was also studying, he also believed that humans would be able to chew with their gums alone. He did have a denture that was made of metal, but apparently he didn't really wear it to eat food. He actually wore it when he was in public to just to look a little bit more human. Just checking for crabs, but no. And apparently eventually Dora, she had her teeth pulled out as well eventually because she caught infections but on the island. Anyway, so we are in 1929. Those two decide to escape Germany, fascism and the economical crisis, to move alone, create their own home on the island of Floriana. Now, Floriana, it was, it had been, well, some people had lived there before. I think in the 1830s there was an Irish guy called Watkins that had tried to settle there, but he gave up fairly quickly. And there had been a penal colony as well for mutiny. You know, any military that committed mutiny and stuff, there was a bit of a prison, but again, in the 19th century, by the time our couple arrived, there was nothing anymore on Floriana. We've got some more friends down here, look. And the couple wanted to be alone. Although they were alone on the island, they were not alone for a very long time. You very often had some journalists, some journalists that would come and visit them and bring them some food or gifts and check how they managed to settle in. They did quite good. They did manage to create their home. When they first arrived on the island, they were with a little local boy that showed them the site, and they decided to settle in a particular place. And the little local boy actually said, oh, this is where Watkins settled 100 years ago. And he said, the local boy said, murder was committed here. That's it. I don't know any more about the murder. Apparently, that's what the little boy had said. And there's a little say, you know, of course, the Galapagos are known for those big tortoises. It is said that the tortoise, they know your intention. And if you come to the island with bad intentions, they'll curse you. So you'll be cursed by the tortoise. And it does look like with our story, that might be exactly what happened. But let's get back to our main characters. So they settled on the island. They did quite well. There were only 2 little streams of fresh water on the island. They did manage to collect it, and they had a little system for a shower. They the doctor believed that Dora was going to be able to be cured by the fresh natural life and everything. Frederick was he was a bit of a philosopher, really. He was a great fan of Nietzsche, the philosopher, and he was writing a lot about philosophy and everything. He didn't really believe that humans were necessarily good and meant to live in society and everything. And he was more than happy to be isolated on his island. He did not want to start a little, are you doing yoga, my love? I know this pose. This is a yoga pose. Well, you're doing well. You're right. It's time for yoga early morning. Right. Let's leave them alone. Anyway, so the couple is doing well. Every so often they've got those visits from journalists. There was an American millionaire from California called Captain Hancock. He was a filmmaker. He basically owned a lot of Hollywood at the time. And he would come to visit them, and although they did manage to settle, they had a vegetable garden and stuff. They were meant to be vegetarian, but every time they were struggling, they would eat meat. And actually, it's going to be very ironic when you know the end of the story, but officially they were vegetarian. And there were a lot of newspapers reporting on their so no little shark, by the way. I've been looking in the water at the same time. They're not here at this time. So yeah, they were settling okay for many months. They had a bit of a weird relationship. It does look like Dora was admirating the doctor so much. It didn't look like a very sane relationship, if we're honest. She was almost like a follower of his, like a guru to an extent, you know. And they became a bit of a sensation in the German newspapers. Well, not only the German one, but mainly in Germany. And the newspapers were commenting on how well they did and how they managed to have their own little house on their own, to be self-sufficient and everything. And then in Germany, some people were reading that and they wanted to come. They actually had a few Germans that did turn up. Frederick was not impressed. He sent them up to the caves. That's about maybe an hour walk in they were all the pirates' caves, so he wouldn't have to see them. Luckily, those 3 or 4 Germans were gone after a few weeks. And then eventually, there's a family that turned up from Germany, the Whitmer family. The Whitmers, they were a couple, Hans and Margaret. Margaret was much younger than Hans, and she had pretty much adopted Harry. Harry was Hans' first child from a different relationship. Little Harry was a teenage boy at the time, and he also suffered from some terrible health issues, and his eyesight was also very bad. So the couple believed that coming to a natural life on an island would help Harry on his health. And because they read that Dr. Ritter was on the island, they thought, well, we're fine, at least we'll have a doctor, right? And that's actually one of the reasons why they choose Floriana. It's because they knew that the doctor and his mistress were there on the island. So they had left everything behind in Germany. They didn't even tell their families until the last moment. And eventually, when they arrived on Floriana, they went straight to Fredo. Fredo was the house of Dora and Frederick. They decided to call it Freddo, so the beginning of Frederick and the beginning of Dora. The doctor was not impressed when he saw the family coming. He was not exactly happy to see people coming into his little island and his little life. Obviously, he could not say no, he didn't own the island, but he was quite cold with them. And again, he brought them up an hour away, up to the caves, because that's the only place where they had drinking water. And they thought, well, if they're up in the cave, they're not going to bother me too much. And the couple was a bit disappointed, actually, to see that the doctor was not any friendlier, because they had just found out that Margaret was pregnant. So, you know, they thought at least they could have the doctor to help them deliver the baby if needs be, you know. So the Whitmers, they settled in the pirate caves. They actually were quite successful in building themselves a home and having a garden, and they had a gun and everything. There was a bit of wild stock on the island. You had wild pigs, and you had cattle, you know, you had donkeys and cows. Actually, Dora had a donkey, Burro. She loved her donkey. There are a few actual videos of the couple, because Captain Hancock would often come and film them. So you can see videos online of Dora and her donkey. Frederick hated it. He believed that people's love for animals was actually loving the animal inside yourself. He was a philosopher. He would spend hours and hours writing his philosophy, hoping to get published one day. So yeah, the Whitmers settled well. They were not friends with the doctor, but they did manage to have some fairly cordial relationships, and they did help one another to an extent, you know, maybe giving each other a bit of grains, or a bit of maybe a hen and a chicken to have babies and stuff like that. So they were not having much of a social life, but they would help each other when needs be. Although the Whitmers did manage to be very independent, what the doctor was not happy with, he was hoping they'll give up after a few weeks like the other Germans had done. The Whitmers actually did very well. When eventually there's another party that arrived, they were, today we'll call them a throuple. It was a lady. I want to say pretty. She was not actually pretty, but a very sexy lady that was a very seductive lady. Her name was Baroness Eloise Wegborn de Wagner-Bosquet. They came from Paris, although they were all German speaking. Well, Eloise would speak French to her German lovers, but the boys were from Germany. You had Robert Philipson. Let's call him lover number one, Robert. And you had Rodolphe Lorenz. Lorenz, we'll call him Lawrence because we don't want to be confused with Rodolphe and Rolf coming later on. So Lawrence was the lover number two. So she turned up out of a boat. She sat on a donkey, and she has her two lovers walking behind, washing her feet. And I mean, it must have been like quite a scene. And there was a third guy with them. He was not a lover. He was an Ecuadorian servant. His name was Manuel. So you've got this so-called Baroness turning up on the island, and she went straight up actually to see the Whitmers, and she picked up the mail. At the time, they had some kind of a barrel, a wooden barrel on Post Office Bay, where anyone could drop a letter, and any boat that would stop by would pick up the letters and post them on the continent. Free service that was created in the 1920s. So she picked up the letters from Post Office Bay, and she purposely, we believe she purposely opened the one for Dr. Ritter. And she gave it to the Whitmers. She was like, oh, I've just come through Post Office Bay. Can you give those to the doctor? Now, she was actually trying to create some drama between the Whitmers and the couple, the Ritter's couple. Because some of their letters back to Europe had been leaked already to the press. The couple had already become a big sensation in the press. And their letters were often leaked and everything. So she knew, I mean, from the very first day she arrived, she wanted to create some drama on the island. Hi, Pauline, and welcome everyone that just joined. I'm glad so many of you have made it anyway, despite the trouble. So then the Whitmers ended up with letters to drop to the doctor, opened. And very quickly, the Baroness, or so-called Baroness, and her lovers were like, oh, I'm here to open a grand hotel. I've got permission from the governor of Galapagos. I'm going to open a grand hotel for millionaires, for American millionaires. It's going to be the new Miami. It's going to be called Hacienda Paradiso. And that's exactly what they did not want, the other residents. You know, they wanted their little quiet life away from everyone. And she had, so the two lovers, one was called the architect and the other one the engineer. Little pause in the story. So this is, of course, one of the tortoises. Apparently, Steven Spielberg came here. And you can see how he got his inspiration for E.T. You know, when you look at the tortoise and you look at E.T., they do have very similar facial features. Anyway, let's go and see the sea. So yeah, straight away the Baroness is getting on everyone's nerves. I didn't tell you, when she arrived at the Whitmers, so the Whitmers had a little water source, a little stream, and they had dug a little hole to try to store the water. That was their only source of drinking water. When the Baroness arrived with her two lovers, she jumped straight into the water to wash her feet, and the two lovers were washing her feet. Of course, Margaret Whitmer was not impressed because it was her only source of drinking water. But that's the type. Oh, there's something swimming there. Is that a seal? Can you see? Hold on, let me zoom in. What is that? Can you see the black stuff? Might just be a piece of, no, it's something swimming, but I cannot see what it is from here. Let me zoom out. What year is this now? Oh, Laurie, we're still, so when the Baroness arrived, I think we're probably in 31, because the drama really unfolded in 34. So yeah, we must be in 1931. Got another friend on here. And so yeah, so the Baroness arrived. So to make it clear, at that point on the island, we've got Dr. Ritter, his wife. We've got the Whitmer's family, so the couple and their son Harry, or at least Hans' son. And we've got those four people. So the Baroness, her two lovers, and Manuel, the local boy. By the way, I've got a book about the affair that I had to read to prepare the tour. The book was written, I believe, in the 70s, and the vocabulary we used in the 70s was a bit different than today. And when at the beginning of the book, they're talking about Margaret and Dr. Ritter being on a boat with an Indian. I was like, oh, okay. And then again, a few pages later, there's another Indian. I was like, oh, I didn't realize there were so many people from India in the Galapagos at the time. And I realized after a few chapters that when they said Indian, they actually meant Native Americans. I mean, we wouldn't say that, especially not for Latin America. I would never say that nowadays. Maybe if you talk about Northern America, you know, when you talk about cowboys and Indians, but I didn't realize that in the 70s, it was perfectly fine to call all the native Indians. Anyway, so Manuel was a native. Now, at that point, so there's already trouble brewing between everyone, really. And the Baroness, she was the one trying to create trouble and turning everyone against one another. And of course, you can imagine Frederick, the idea of a grand hotel, Hacienda Paradiso, was not exactly what he had wished for. And at that point, Margaret started to have contractions when her husband was hunting with little Harry. So the Baroness and her lovers, they actually pretty much settled in the Whitmer's garden, because that was the only source of drinking water. So the Whitmers and the Baroness and her team, they were all together up the mountain. And Margaret was not doing well. She ended up giving birth alone. And it went okay at first, but what we believe, it's not quite clear in the book, but what seemed to have happened is that the placenta might have stayed stuck inside. So of course Hans run to get Ritter. The baby was fine, baby Rolf. He was then the firstborn on the island, but Margaret was really unwell. And at first, Dr. Ritter didn't want to come. He was like, no, I've not come here to be a physician. But eventually, of course, he agreed to come and help or save Margaret. He performed the operation to get the placenta out. And at that point, there was a bit of celebration spirit between everyone. People were so excited about the first baby on Floriana Island that they started to give each other gifts. So even the Baroness actually had a dinner at Hacienda Paradiso. I mean, it was just a bit of a wooden structure. Actually, apparently very dirty in Hacienda Paradiso. A lot of the journalists that popped by were like, oh, the Baroness lives in a filthy place. So she had a dinner with everyone. But again, she was... So it was all about her, and she's talking about her life in pelicans. She's talking about her life in Paris, and apparently Doré went up. She stood up a few times to go and give food or drink to Burro, her donkey, and the Baroness was not impressed. She did not understand how her stories could be interrupted to go and feed a donkey. Sadly, it might be one of the reasons why the donkey ended up dead a bit later on, but we're not there yet in the story. So at that point, it becomes a little bit better between the different settlers for just a few weeks. And then the Baroness started to create trouble again. What we believe happened, it's quite difficult to tell you what really happened because both Dora and Margaret ended up publishing books. And their version of the story is very different on many different events. But what seems to have happened is that the Baroness had gone to free Burro, so she'd kind of kidnapped the donkey at night, and she placed it in the garden of the Whitmers. And of course, the Whitmers, when there was a wild pork or a wild animal going to eat their vegetables, you know, they relied on their vegetables. That was the only source of food, really. So Hans shot the donkey. He didn't know at the time it was Burro. He believed in the dark it was a wild pork. But basically, Hans shot the donkey, Dora's well-loved donkey, by accident. But that was a setup by the Baroness because, again, she wanted to create trouble. Now, look at the iguana here. Hello, mate. Oh, there are two actually. Three. They're everywhere. Look. They are the same colors. Those are very small. There are some far bigger ones. So those ones, I don't know if they swim, those ones. It's a big one. Big ones that swim. They probably do. Hello. Do you want to be a YouTube sensation? So anyway, there started to be some trouble as well between the Baroness and her lovers. Manuel, the Ecuadorian, actually left at that point. So the Baroness was left alone with her two lovers. And as much as when they first arrived, they were living all together in a happy throuple. Then apparently, when eventually she started to spend much more time with Robert and completely ignore or even abuse Lawrence. So the poor Lawrence was brutally beaten up on stuff. I mean, it wasn't exactly a very sane relationship. And the Baroness had permission. She was granted many hectares of land to build a hotel that never existed. And she was charming everyone. So she charmed the governor of the Galapagos as well. She would charm Captain Hancock, the Hollywood guy. Actually, Hancock did come back to the island to film some kind of a pirate movie with the Baroness. So the Baroness is acting. The movie is online. You can actually see... there's a documentary about the case where you can see parts of the movie. Oh, thank you, Linda. That's very much appreciated. Thanks for the flying purr. And so yeah, oh, there's more iguanas here. the Baroness ends up in a movie playing some kind of a couple stranded on a honeymoon. They're stranded on the island, and they end up becoming a bit like pirates and stuff. So the Baroness is charming everyone, which probably infuriated Frederick, because he was only given a little bit of land when she's given a huge amount of land to build a hotel that never materialized. And poor little Lawrence, he was starved as well. The Baroness wouldn't give him anything. And eventually he started to knock at the door of the Whitmores to beg for food. So they would invite him, they would invite him for dinner. And that's when Lawrence told the Whitmores that the Baroness was not a baroness at all. She was a scammer. She was, at least a compulsive liar. They had met in Paris, where he had a shop, and together they had hired Robert, lover number one, and the Baroness actually pretty much took all his money, but he was so in love with her that he was the victim, really. The shop was called Antoinette in Paris, but apparently she wasn't even from there either. She had married someone, but she probably came from Istanbul, Constantinople. Oh, there's a seal down there right by the between the boats. So yeah, she probably, oh, look at the big fish is fished. Oh, too late. Hello, you, I didn't see you there. I think that might be, there's a spot where they feed the leftover fish to the seals in the evening. It might be here. Yeah, it looks like that's the fishing port. So all the seals and the birds, they come to get the leftover unsold fishes. Yeah, there's another seal down there. Look, he's waiting for fishes. See the one next to the staircase? Anyway, so the Baroness is pissing off everyone. She's very nasty with poor Lawrence. He's still living there, but he spends more and more time with the Whitmores. The relationship between the Whitmores and Dora was not very good anymore, because she found out eventually that he had killed Burro. Might it be an accident? He had killed her beloved donkey. So at that point, everyone is very pissed off against everyone, really. When one day, Margaret and Lawrence turned up at the Dora's home at Fredo. That's Dora's version, by the way. The versions are pretty much the same at that point, but Lawrence and Margaret turned up saying that the Baroness had told Margaret that some very rich friends of hers were coming up on a private yacht to take her down to Tahiti, the French island in the Pacific. And her and Robert, so she didn't take Lawrence with her, they decided to build a hotel in Tahiti instead. And she had disappeared 2 days earlier since that. Now, no one quite believed that, because no one had seen a boat. You had Post Office Bay on Black Beach, and I mean, every time a boat moored on the island, someone would see it, And a private yacht coming to take the Baroness and Philipson, someone would have seen it, The Baroness and Philipson, Robert, were never seen again. Now, very quickly after that event, all the properties that had been at Hacienda Paradiso were sold. Lawrence, so lover number 2, sold all their properties to the Whitmores and the Ritter couple. Now, at some point when they went to buy the items from Hacienda, Dora went to the Whitmores and she spotted a tablecloth on the table that definitely came from Hacienda Paradiso. She had seen it when she came for lunch the time before. And Margaret said, no, I bought it in Ecuador on my way here. And that was already very suspicious. Then when they got to Hacienda Paradiso, look, you've got everyone waiting for food here. The iguanas, the birds, the seals. I and the humans as well. And anyway, yeah, so when she got to Hacienda, she spotted a book, The Portrait of Dorian Gray. They knew that the Baroness would take the book everywhere with her. She did tell them it was like a lucky charm for her. She took the book anywhere she'd go. So Dora found it very suspicious that the Baroness would have gone to Tahiti, leaving all her possessions behind, including the portrait of Dorian Gray. But anyway, Dora, as well as the doctor, were extremely happy that the Baroness had disappeared. You know, she was such a troublemaker. Everyone would have had a motive to kill her, every single character. So it's a bit of a wood on it, you know, because everyone was happy to see her gone. Now, this is not the end of the story. We've got far more than 2 people dead in this story. So, the Baroness and Philipsons are never seen again. Of course, eventually, when everyone learned about it, you know, the press and Captain Hancock and everyone wanted to find an answer. What are you eating? He's eating a heart or something. Look, what are you eating? That's the inside of a fish. They're fighting for the food. Winner, we've got a winner. Oh no, now they're all fighting for the same guts, fish guts. It's probably this one's guts. Tuna, maybe? Is that tuna? Yeah. Oops, sorry. Let's see the fish. And I'm distracting myself with the fish. So yeah, so everyone had a motive to kill them, but the suspicions, of course, went straight on Lawrence because he was the one living with them. He was the one that was abused by the couple. He was the one that sold their possessions. And he was very unwell. He had been very unwell for many months, mainly because he wasn't fed properly anyway. And life went on, but Lawrence was waiting for a way out. He had placed an advert on Post Office Bay saying, if... there's a movie, so guys, did anyone mention the movie in the chat? Yes, there's a movie called Eden. It came out last year with, what's his face, the guys from the romantic comedies. If you want to see him naked, what's his face? Because it is said that Dr. Ritter on Dora were nudist. Whenever they'll walk around naked on the island. The movie is very well done. It's actually quite accurate. There's only a few details that are different in the movie, especially the relationship between Captain Hancock and the Baroness. In the movie, yes, Eden. Jude Law, thank you, Catherine. Yeah, if you want to see a naked Jude Law, watch Eden. You can watch it for free on, if you have Prime Video, you can watch it for free. I had to do the thing with Amazon Prime is that you can do as many free trials as you want. So I had to do another free trial to see the movie. So yeah, very, very accurate. But in the movie, Captain Hancock actually rejected the Baroness. You know, the Baroness was a very sexual lady. Was she a nymphomaniac or something? We don't know, but she would try to seduce every man that came around. In the movie, it didn't work with Captain Hancock, but in reality, he was probably a bit smitten by her anyway because he produced a movie about her. No, so the Galapagos Affair, it's a documentary. It is named Satan Came to Eden. That's the title of the book published by Dora later on. So there's a documentary on you can find it on YouTube. It's a bit complicated to follow because the interviews are mainly German settlers from here, from Santa Cruz. So they were not really in contact with Dr. Ritter and everything. But the documentary is quite well done. The movie is very nice as well, at least very accurate for a Hollywood production. Yes, exactly. Eden, and it's from last year, I think, 2025. The only thing is, in the movie, the actors are far more attractive than the actual characters. I wish I could show you, I had pictures prepared for you, but I can't show you any pictures today because I'm not on Prism. On YouTube, I'm not able to show any images. I can post them on Facebook later on if you're curious. Anyway, so, The Baroness is gone with Philipsons. They've never been seen again on the island, although all their possessions are there. No one has heard of a boat in Tahiti. And if there had been a shipwreck, people would know, you know, when there was a shipwreck, people knew that a vessel went missing. So it does look like they might have been murdered. Who by, though? Who by? Or could they have taken their own lives? Personally, I would not exclude it as a possibility, because the Baroness could have realized that Hacienda Paradiso, the hotel, would never manifest, that there was nowhere to get fresh water by the beach anyway. And she was a compulsive liar anyway. She had nothing to build the hotel. She had no money left. She had nothing. And she did tell a journalist once at a dinner at Hacienda Paradiso that one day her and Philipson would have a last cigarette, a last shot of whiskey, and swim into the unknown. So that's probably some kind of a metaphor for unaliving themselves. So it is a possibility. And you know, she probably knew that doing that, she would go down into history as the missing couple of Floriana, 62 kilometers from here, Floriana. And who knows? I wouldn't put it past them, but it's more likely to be murder. You know, everyone had a murder, and there were a lot of details that didn't match into the different version of the different protagonists. At first, Dr. Ritter did contemplate. He did contemplate the idea of suicide. Shouldn't say that word. Of unaliving themselves. Then he went on to accuse the Whitmers. Dora did accuse Lawrence. And actually, Ritter did send a letter to the governor of Galapagos, clearly accusing the Whitmer family. Was it because he believed them to be guilty, or was it because he was guilty? Personally, I think it could have been Dr. Ritter with Lawrence. There's also a photograph. Ritter never smiled. Well, he had no teeth anyway, but he never smiled. There's one photo of him and the Baroness where he's smiling, and they look a bit close. Was there an affair between the Baroness and Ritter? You know, by that point, the relationship between Ritter and Dora had very much deteriorated. Anyway, Lawrence, potential criminal lover number 2, is desperate to leave the island, absolutely desperate. When eventually there's another guy. There were quite a few boats coming and going. That's actually part of the issue between the different residents. It's that every time there was a boat coming, they'll bring them gifts, but they used to steal the gift from one another. For example, Captain Hancock was sending milk, condensed milk, for the baby Rolf, you know, the firstborn on the island, and someone kept stealing the canned milk. They probably suspected the Baroness, although, according to one journalist, there were a lot of milk cans in the bin at Dr. Ritter's. So it could be anybody. They were all stealing from, they were all competing to be the best settlers. And actually, Ritter was a bit jealous of the Whitmers because they had been successful. It doesn't look like him, but this is, I believe, Charles Darwin with his beard. And anyway, so yeah, everyone hated each other on the island anyway. So eventually there's a Norwegian captain that turned up. He wanted to see the Baroness and he realized she was gone. So he was begged by Lawrence to see if he could bring Lawrence back to here, to Santa Cruz. And because Lawrence wanted to leave the island. He was desperate. It lasted for many weeks. He just wanted to go. So eventually, Captain, his name was Nuggerud, agreed to take Lawrence back down here to Santa Cruz. And on the way, they actually spotted a ship, you know, a big cruise ship that would leave from San Cristobal. So Nuggerud dropped his crew here in Santa Cruz. And Lawrence begged him to take him straight down to San Cristobal so then he could get a ship to go back to Germany. And Nugerud didn't agree. Nugerud was like, no, I've got not enough petrol. The sea is it's quite a bad weather today. I cannot do that. And then Lawrence was like, no, I'll give you 30 secrets, 40 secrets, 50 secrets. That was a lot of money. So eventually Nugerud accepted. So he left Santa Cruz to go down to San Cristobal. It was only 3 people on the boat. So Captain Nugerud, Lawrence, the potential criminal, and a little local boy called José Pasmito. Pasmito was maybe 12, 13, 14 years old. He was a teenager. The boat was called the Dinamita. Now, the Dinamita was never seen again. Which is interesting is that apparently before to go, Lawrence told Margaret, I've got a very bad feeling about this trip, but I need to go, I need to leave the island. It was Friday the 13th of July, 1934, I think. So at that point, we have no idea what happened to the Dinamita. Well, to an extent, we still don't know what happened to the Dinamita. Now, back on Floriana, so you still have the Whitmers and you've got the Ritter couple. The Ritter couple, they're, well, according to Dora in her book, everything is fine, but according to Margaret, their relationship was terrible. They kept fighting. Ritter might have been a bit violent with Dora as well. And one day what happened is Dora gave some potted pork meat to the chicken she had. They knew the meat was bad. They had opened the pot and it smelled bad. So they knew it was bad pork. They gave it to the chicken. The chicken died. And they talked about it actually with the Whitmers, and the Whitmers were like, oh, don't worry, I'll give you a couple of baby chicks so you can get some new chicken. And apparently, Dr. Ritter decided to boil the dead chicken. So, I mean, it seems like a bad idea to eat some poison chicken, but Ritter decided to do so. So they boiled it and they potted it, and I mean, apparently, according to what I could find online, if you boil it well, it should be able to kill the toxins from the, well, whatever toxins it was. It could have been a different bacteria, different toxins. It should be okay-ish to eat when it's boiled properly. Anyway, Doré did not want to have the chicken. She thought it was dangerous. And, well, that's according to Dora. Eventually, Ritter ate the chicken, and he had a terrible, terrible food poisoning. His tongue was swallowed. He couldn't speak anymore. His body was kind of convulsing, and that lasted for 2 days until eventually Dora went up to the Whitmers to tell them that Ritter was dying. Now, the version of the story here is very different between Dora and Margaret Whitmer. Margaret came down to Fredo. She saw the doctor, very unwell. He couldn't speak anymore. She came with some kind of pump, trying to pump his stomach, but it was fairly obvious that it was way too late. And apparently he was looking at Dora with a lot of hatred. And according to Margaret, at that point, he couldn't speak because his tongue was huge, but he grabbed a piece of paper, and as he was dying, he was looking at Dora, and he wrote on the paper, "I curse you with my dying breath." So that's why Margaret tends to believe that Dora purposely poisoned Ritter. And it's very ironic that a vegetarian ended up dying of meat poisoning. It could have been an accident. It could have been poison. They did have some poison at Fredo. Or it could just be that Dora didn't boil the chicken properly, purposely or not. We don't know. We'll probably never know. According to Dora, so Dora told everyone it was chicken poisoning, but 2 years later, when because eventually she left the island, she sent a letter to Captain Hancock telling him to come and help her. So Dora ended up leaving Floriana, she came back down to Germany. But when she published her version of the story, her book, she said he had died of a heart attack, when everyone knows it was chicken poisoning. Is it just because she didn't want to say that Dr. Ritter, the famous vegetarian, died of eating meat? Or is it a bit more suspicious than that? We'll never know. Personally, I think it's very possible that Dore killed Ritter. Their relationship was going very bad, and also maybe she found out that he was partially responsible for the double murder. Anything is possible, but Ritter was a doctor. He was a physician. He knows how to deal with bacteria and toxin and stuff. It's very unlikely that he very stupidly died like this of eating bad chicken, but who knows? So whether Dora is guilty or not, we don't know. She went back on a boat with Captain Hancock. She left the island. So the Whitmers were actually the last surviving settlers there, and they're still there. Well, Margaret died around the year 2000 at the age of 95, but her descendants are still on Floriana. Rolf started a tourism agency. She had another baby after that. Poor little Harry, the boy that suffered from bad health, the teenage boy, he died, he drowned in a boat accident 20 years later. Here is Darwin again. And the second daughter, Floriana, she married. Well, sadly, her husband, Mario, disappeared on Floriana as well in the 60s. There was also an American tourist that disappeared in the 60s, but her skeleton was found many years later. She probably just got lost and dehydrated. Anyway, so yeah, the Whitmers family, they stayed on the island. After the events, actually, Margaret went on holiday to Germany. They had some money saved in case the adventure didn't go well. So she used that money to go on a holiday in Germany and published her own version of the story and stuff. But we are not done yet. Captain Hancock, when he heard about the disappearance of the Baroness, he came down. Okay, I'm back. Let me know in the chat what was the last thing you've heard. Let me know in the chat, because you might have missed a bit of the story. I think we should be back now. I've just had a little bit of a signal drop. Let me know in the chat what was the last detail you've heard. Apologies about that. I'm going to go back where I had good signal, so I'm going back down this side where the signal was. The disappearance of the Baroness, that was ages ago. Hold on. Wow, okay. I must have been gone for like 10 minutes then. So let's go back. Let's go back to the disappearance of the Baroness then. So the Baroness, as well as her boyfriend number one, Robert Philipson, are gone. Oh, Sarah, you've heard about the vacation? I'm so confused then. How long was I missing for? Oh, I see. Okay. So that's not long ago. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Laurie. Got you. Perfect. So yeah, Captain Hancock. So you know that Ritter is dead, right? You've heard about the chicken poisoning, right? Okay, cool. I would assume you know about the chicken poisoning. Okay, perfect. Good. Thank you, guys. So yeah, Margaret went back on a holiday to Germany, and when Hancock heard about the disappearance of the Baroness, he actually came down to Floriana because he wanted to find out what happened. And when he turned up at Friedo, Dora told him that Ritter had died, and that she wanted him to take her back to Santa Cruz to be able to go back to Germany. And he had some news as well. There had been a boat that, probably wrecked, but we don't know. 2 bodies had been found on Marchena Island. It's a little island at the north of the archipelago. 2 bodies had been found, mummified, dried by the sun. At the time, the press all over published some wrong information, saying that it might have been the body of the missing couple. It was not. It was the body of Lawrence and the captain that had gone missing, Captain Nuggerud. They had died, probably of a wreck. Their bodies were found completely dried out on a little island. Lawrence had his passport on him, so there was no doubt about his identity. He was found wearing exactly the same clothes as he did when he first disappeared. Now, we don't know where the boat is. It was never found. And we don't know where the 12 years old little crewman is gone either. Did he decide to stay on the boat? Was his body washed out by the waves? Or some newspapers went quite far. Some newspapers claimed that they might have been searching for a treasure on the little island, and maybe they did find the pirate treasure, and maybe the little boy stole the treasure as well as the boat and left Lawrence and Nuggerud stranded on the island. We'll never know. What is more likely is that it's a shipwreck. We know they didn't have much petrol. We know the weather was bad. So Lawrence, as well as the Norwegian captain, died on the little island at the north of the archipelago. So the Whitmores are the only one left. And as you mentioned earlier, I don't know if you could hear, but they stayed on the island for many generations. Actually, if you go to Floriana today, there's a hotel there that's still managed by their descendant. Margaret died in the 2000, but Margaret, she published her book, she published her version of the story, and she never ever wanted to talk about it again. She famously said, "En la boca cerrada no se entran moscas." In a closed mouth, flies cannot enter. So, yeah, Tina, I'm afraid there's nothing I can do about it. It's because I'm on YouTube. YouTube often does that. It's all because of the bug. If I was on Prism, it would be clear, but I'm not able to use Prism, so we'd have to deal with the pixelation, I'm afraid. We know on YouTube itself, it often happens after an hour or so. No, Sarah, the descendants, they don't know, or at least they refuse to talk. It's fairly obvious that Margaret knew more than she said, but she refused to tell anyone. Even years later, a lot of people go and stay at the hotel because they wanted information, or even the settlers, there were many more families moving into Floriana later on. None of them was ever able to get more information. So it's still very much a mystery. Now, the different possibilities, well, it could have been an accident, the Baroness and her lover might have had an accident and disappeared. They were seen completely drunk, dancing on the beach the night before. Did they really plan to get picked up on a boat with Tahiti? It's quite unlikely that Margaret made that up. Margaret was not stupid. She knew that if a boat had come, someone would have seen it. So it's more likely that it might be the Baroness that really said that, or maybe invented that. So maybe nothing happened. Maybe maybe nothing nasty happened. There is a possibility that the Baroness and her lover took their own lives, and that Dr. Ritter died of food poisoning. And of course, the shipwreck with Lawrence and Nuggerud, that's definitely, or more likely, an accident. Now, if we consider it's not an accident, anyone could have killed the Baroness. But personally, I think it's more likely to have been Lawrence and Ritter together. And that's probably why, when later on Dora understood that Ritter was guilty or partially guilty, that's probably why she killed him as well. Who knows? We'll never know. It's very much an open mystery, who done it, and no one knows any better. It's very easy to speculate, but the thing is, anyone could have done it. Hence, so Whitmer might also have done it. He hated the Baroness as much as anyone else did. And you know, the Baroness, oh, there's another friend here. The Baroness lived on, basically in his garden, stealing some of his water. And she was pissing off everyone. So, you know, it could have been anyone really. We'll probably never get an answer now. And it might even be all of them together. In the movie, actually, they came up with their own explanation where the murderers, it's actually Ritter, Hans Whitmer, as well as Lawrence, the three of them together. But if it was the three of them, then Ritter is a very nasty player. Because remember, Ritter wrote to the Galapagos governor to accuse the Whitmers. So if he was guilty and then accused someone else, he's even more nasty. Laurie, the movie is called Eden, and it's the one from last year. So it's available on Amazon Prime if you happen to have Prime. Eden, E-D-E-N. Anyway, that's gonna be the end of the story and the end of the tour. Yes, with Jude Law indeed. If you watch the movie or the documentaries and you have any theories of your own, write them down and tell me in the next tour. I'll do a tour in Isabella in 3 days for now. Hopefully, I hope I'll be able to sort everything out between now and then. So hopefully I'll be able to be on Prism and go ahead with the normal schedule of the tour. But bearing in mind, if you don't see me starting the live, it might be the same issue again. So I might have to do an impromptu live like I did today, in which case on YouTube it's a bit annoying because it could get a bit pixelated, but hey ho. And thanks everyone for coming today. Thank you, Pauline. That's very, very much appreciated. Laurie, I'm only here until tomorrow afternoon. I'm leaving to. We are leaving to go down to Isabella tomorrow at 3 p.m. So just a quick one on Santa Cruz. Thanks, Ronnie. You'll watch the movie for sure. Enjoy, Sarah. It's a good one. The only few details that are wrong in the movie, it's the relationship with Hancock and the Baroness. Everything else is true. A lot of the details are actually true, like even the wild pig that's annoying the couple, even the poor donkey being shot, and the movie is quite well done to show how those people were not friends. They did manage to tolerate one another. They did manage somehow to live together. Personally, I think it's a weird mix anyway, because to go and live alone, isolated in an island away from society, you need a certain type of personality anyway. You're probably not the most sociable bird at the first place. So when you put those people together, of course there's drama. It's like all the outcasts of society, all the people that are not very sociable, managing to find themselves together on an island. So of course there's a lot of drama. But the movie is quite good at showing you how that developed and how the different characters interacted with one another, and how annoying the Baroness can be. Although she was not a Baroness, she was an imposter. She was not a noble. But yeah, if you get a chance to watch the movie or the documentary, if you get any theories of your own about the mystery, do let me know in the next tour. So that'll be in 3 days at the same time, 10 a.m. for me, in Isabella Island. So that'll be make sure you hit the little bell, and you know what, if you can, or if make sure you hit the notification bell for everything I do. This way, even if I start a new live, even if it's not the one on the schedule like today, you'd get notified anyway. Because it's always much more fun to be able to watch it live with me in the chat rather than watching the replay later on. So apologies for all the tech issues today. Apologies, I wanted to show you some images as well, but you know what? I might put them down on Facebook. This way you can see the pictures of the Whitmers and of the Baroness and Dr. Ritter and all that. Thanks for coming today. Thanks everyone for your tips. If any of you drop me a little tip on PayPal or buy me a coffee, it's also very much appreciated. Have a good rest of the day, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.